Hello and welcome back to Buffalo Sports Insider. I'm joined here on today.
Hello
Hello
and
and
welcome
welcome
back
back
to
to
Buffalo
Buffalo
Sports
Sports
Insider.
Insider.
I'm joined here on today's show by Isaiah Marquez, Shea Wirt, Joe Lascala, and Alex Miley. Make sure to keep updated with us on X, Instagram, YouTube. Um, so we're gonna start today's show off with a segment following Buff State softball team. Here's Evan Harrington.
What is going on, Buffalo State softball and Buffalo State athletics? My name is Evan Harrington alongside Bengals softball head coach Jamie Brown. We are going to get into a lot of talk today as the season is just right around the corner. We're going to cover some various topics between the preseason, the Florida trip that's coming up, and just everything overall Buffalo State softball. But before we get into this, Jamie, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing pretty good. The weather's been a little on and off here in Buffalo, but there's some really nice days that are, keeping me happy, but there's some other ones that are just not, but Florida's coming up still.
Yes.
The weather is coming just right around the corner. But before we get to that, preseason. The preseason has been going on for a little bit. You guys had your fall season just a few months ago, but, with the preseason here, you guys have been indoors a little bit, outdoors a little bit. You've been in the gym. Just talk about overall the preseason so far and how it's been going for your team.
I have to say every day is a little bit different. Week to week is different. Obviously, when you have close to 7 weeks for a preseason, it gets to be a lot and tiresome, and I know the girls are ready to get on the field and play, but we've been very fortunate with some warm days and getting out on the field. Even today was a little cold this morning, but we got to go on the turf, so being outside has been a nice relief from being in that square gym. The girls have done a really good job on handling the day-to-day. We kind of prided ourselves this year on the coaching staff, that is, on bringing in chaos every day to practice. So practice was much harder than it will be in a game, hopefully. There's been a lot of trial and error on figuring things out and seeing where people are gonna play and their roles, and we're still unsure about a lot of things, which I think is a good problem. So we have some depth that we're working with. But yeah, I think we're all just ready to go and kind of see where we're at.
So speaking of that, just in a few days here, the team will be heading down to Florida to play 12 games within the week. Just talk about how important those 12 games are for the team to get back into the swing of things here.
I mean, for any team to have to play 12 games in 8 days is obviously challenging. We play 3 days, have a day off, play 3 days. That's a lot of game in a short amount of time, and we have no time to fix things. We kind of have to fix why we're going and learn from our mistakes. That's usually what Florida is. I mean, we have a challenging schedule, just like our non-league schedule. When we get home, it's very challenging. I kind of I'm throwing them at it a little bit this year to kind of see how we respond, but hopefully we can learn quickly. I told the ladies, if a mistake happens, learn from it and move on, and let's not make that mistake again. So, we've done a lot of live reps, a lot of scrimmaging, a lot of defensive situations. So hopefully the mistakes will be minimum. But that's what Florida is just learning and growing and kind of seeing what our identity is.
So the team mantra, you guys have a certain word that you go by, and can you just tell the viewers that word and what that word means? Just to the overall team culture.
Yeah, we talk about bringing the juice. Juice is kind of an acronym, and the ladies and I kind of figured out the appropriate words for that. So J is do your job, and I think that's part of our blue-collar mentality here, is just concentrating on doing your job. U is for unity. Our culture is revolved around team chemistry, so that has to come into play. I is identity, which we're still working on and trying to figure out, but we're getting closer. C is confidence. You have to play with confidence. And then E is elevate, and that's the most interesting word right now is, I want to make sure that the ladies are elevating each other through mistakes, through praise, through everything we do, making sure that, no matter what the situation, that we stay on that path. So that's kind of the mantra that we have this year, and they've been buying into it. So pretty excited about that.
So you mentioned the day off in Florida. Down there is one day off that everyone gets. I'm just curious, what does a day off in Florida normally look like for head coach Jamie Brown?
For me, it's definitely different from the ladies. They get to spend time with their family members that are there. For me, it's the one day probably in months that I try to sleep in, but it's usually watching film and reading a book by the pool.
What book is that? Do you have a certain author? Is there a certain book that head coach Jamie Brown is dissecting as she is by the pool in Florida?
I'm a psychological thriller type of person, so I like to figure out who done it.
There you go. I just want to say thank you to everyone who tunes into these Buffalo State Athletics interviews with myself and now this time Bengals softball head coach Jamie Brown. We will see you guys very soon for another interview. Once again, my name is Evan Harrington alongside Bengals head coach Jamie Brown. We'll see you guys soon. Have a great day.
You wouldn't do that. So why do you do this? Distracted driving kills an average of 9 people and injures over 1,000 every day in America. Put down your phone. Lives depend on it. Don't drive intoxicated. Don't drive intoxicated. A sobering message from AAA.
On Thursday, the Sabres beat the Islanders 4-0 behind UPL's 5th shutout of the year. Goals scored by Zach Benson with 2, Dylan Cousins, and
Victor Olofsson. It was a great game played all around. And then on Saturday, they had a letdown. They lost to Detroit 4-1 behind Thompson scoring the only goal. UPL did not have a great game. They now sit 5 points back with 14 games left out of a playoff spot. What are your thoughts on the Sabres being able to make the playoffs?
Honestly, I'm not expecting it. But it is possible. I mean, they're only 5 points out of the wild card. And with the addition of Byram, he has just been a massive piece, very consistent for the Sabres in his few games that he's played so far. And he can really help out that defense and help out his line mates a lot. And even though I'm not expecting him to, always got to hope when you're a Buffalo fan.
Yeah, even though the coast may seem very damp right now, I think they have a good chance of making it.
As the Sabres are, with 14 games left, only 5 points up.
They have to play all the teams ahead of them. They have to play the Capitals twice, the Flyers still, the Red Wings still, the Devils still. And even though the schedule is very tough, a lot of these other teams also still have tough schedules. And the Sabres have been playing very well recently. So I think that they are going to be able to go on a run. I don't know if they will make it, but I think they can bring it very close. And then tonight they head to Seattle to play the Kraken. Expected goalies are for the Sabres, they're expected to call up Devin Levi to make the start tonight. And for the Kraken, they're expected to have Joey Daccord starting. Who do you expect to win this game?
Listen, I think all the teams left know how many points they need, what the Sabres need to do, especially to get back into the playoff. And I think they'll get it done tonight against Seattle. I expect Tage to have a big game. And if I had to give a score prediction, I'd probably say 4-2 Sabres.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree that the Sabres win. I don't think it's going to be that high score of a game. I think even though Seattle's in the same position as us, we're both battling for wild card spots. I think we're going to come out. We usually play very well on the road. I think we're going to be able to pull out a 3-1 win. Devin Levi has been looking really well in the AHL. I think with this call-up, if it happens that we're all expecting, I think he's going to be able to produce a very nice game. And I think the Sabres win this game 3-1. So even if the Sabres miss the playoffs this year, it's looking very high for them in the coming future as they have a number one prospect pool. They have a bunch of very young players. The under 25 talent is insane. When do you expect, if not this year, when do you expect the Sabres to make the playoffs?
If not this year, I'd probably say within the next 2 years. I think this young core is only going to get better. We traded away Middlestat and Okposo, so we're getting younger, and the young guys are getting better fast. So I would say within the next 2 years, at the latest, I would hope it would be 3.
Yeah, I think the Sabres end up making the playoffs next year. As I think in this offseason, I think Kevin Adams realizes that the window is opening. I think next year is the year for them to really make a run. So I expect some win now moves. As we have just so many young players, we don't have enough roster spots for them. So we're going to have to trade some of them. So I think they're going to find a disgruntled star this offseason that's asking out. I think this is the year the Sabres strike. I think they make the moves. I think Don Granato is probably going to get fired. Hopefully they bring in a young, new coach that is very energetic and get this team to play good all year instead of the last few years where we start out slow, basically knock ourselves out of the playoffs. And then at the end of the year, we play really well when it doesn't even matter anymore because we're out of playoff contention already. And it's just a recurring cycle that hopefully a new coach will be able to change. All right, so after commercial, we're going to talk about March Madness basketball and then the NFL free agency.
How was school today?
It was good.
Did you play volleyball?
Yes.
How's your serve coming? I think we'll work on it this weekend.
Amy's slumber party is this weekend.
Is your homework done?
No.
That was the deal we made. If you do...
Hi, Lauren. My name is Katie. We're gonna take care of you, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
So March has been going on for 18 days, but it feels like it officially started yesterday with the Selection Sunday show. Tomorrow we will have our first games, the playing games, Howard versus Wagner in the 16 slot, and a surprisingly high playing at the 10 seed with Virginia versus Colorado State. So I would just like to start off with, what are your opinions on the bracket, and who are some teams you're really looking at this time?
Yeah, I think the bracket is, compared to other years, I think very high chance of a lot of upsets. If you looked at a lot of the conference tournaments, not many of the number 1 or number 2 seeds won their tournaments. There's a lot of lower seeds making runs. That's why we have a 10 seed play-in, because there's so many AQs this year. It pushed the seeding back. So I expect this year to be kind of like last year with a lot of chaos, but I'm expecting still some of your top seeds to come out. I expect Iowa State, UConn, Houston, Tennessee. Those are some teams I'm looking at to really make runs. I expect Houston to win it all, as they have the number 1 defense in the league and one of the best guards. So I really think that they're going to be able to go on a run and capture what they weren't able to last year and get it done.
Yeah, for me, a lot of the 1 seeds aren't very impressive to me. We got UConn and North Carolina. I could see them going out early. I think a lot of the mid seeds have a chance to really do some damage in this tournament. I know Alabama has been spotty at times, but I could see them making a run. I could also see Duke making the run behind senior guard Jeremy Roach and sophomore center Kyle Filipowski. I think they have all the right pieces. Jared McCain at shooting guard. I expect them to make a deep run. And if I had to pick today, they would be my pick to take home the title this year.
So, yeah, looking at the bracket this year, there's a lot of potential for upsets. A lot of those 7 through 12 seeds are really good this year, and some of them are very hot. I'm looking at a lot of the 12 versus 5 seed games. I think there's going to be 2 teams. James Madison's going to beat Wisconsin, and I think that Grand Canyon is going to beat St. Mary's. I think there's a lot of potential for a lot of the higher up seeds to lose within the round of 32 and Sweet 16. But that being said, I think, obviously you're looking at UConn and Houston, 2 of the top teams in college basketball. But 2 other teams that I'm looking at is Baylor this year. I think that they were a good team in the Big 12 this year. They have the 6th highest 3-point percentage in the nation right now, which is very important getting down the stretch, because threes can change games. And I also think that Creighton has a chance to make the Final Four this year. They still have some very important pieces in their squad. They have Baylor Shireman, Trey Alexander, and Ryan Kalkbrenner. They still are, the major keys of that team, all of them averaging over 17 points a game. And I think that they can repeat their Elite 8 appearance last year, and I think they have a chance to get to the Final Four.
Yeah, so I also think that this bracket is going to consist of a lot of upsets. I mean, for starters, we have Gonzaga, McNeese. I feel like McNeese can give Gonzaga a run for his money. They have a lot of solid wins this year. I also see Illinois making a huge run. I feel like with Terrence Shannon, I feel like this tournament is, if you have good guard play, strong guard play, it can take you far in this tournament. And with Terrence Shannon, I mean, he's one of the best scorers in the tournament in the nation. I feel like he can lead the Illinois to a deep run. You got teams like Kansas. I feel like Kansas is slept on. It's rare we've seen Kansas at a 4 seed in March, but I feel like Bill Self and just the Kansas culture can give them enough oomph to get them past. You know, you got teams like Creighton, as Shay was saying. Creighton, I feel like it's another team that can make a run. But yeah, I feel like Illinois is my team to make the biggest run.
So it's good that you mentioned 12 seeds and McNeese because I've been very high on McNeese. I watched the conference tournament and I thought this is going to be a team that's underseeded. They have the second-ranked defense in all of college basketball behind only Houston. And they have 4 40% three-point shooters led by Shahade Wells. I actually have them making the Elite Eight. But as far as my Final Four goes, I have UConn and Houston, very cookie-cutter picks. And then I have Creighton. And then I have 11 seeded New Mexico making it out of the West region. I think they kind of ran through the West Conference tournament. They were a bubble team at first. They probably wouldn't have made it, but I really think they're a very solid team. So before we go on to free agency, who are your guys' Final Fours?
I have mine as UConn versus Iowa State and Houston versus Tennessee. My bad. I think Houston ends up Houston and Iowa State, I think, win, and then a national championship. You have a repeat of the Big 12 national championship, but I think Houston gets it done this time.
Yeah, I actually have Illinois versus Alabama, and then Duke versus.
Is really calling to me this year. I think they can do a lot of damage in this tournament.
For me, I have Baylor versus UConn and Houston versus Creighton. I think that Baylor is going to beat UConn in the Final Four, and I think Houston is going to beat Creighton as well. And I think that Houston is finally going to get over that hump and win the national championship this year.
To see obviously Houston in the Final Four, I mean, the guard play and the defense that team puts out on the floor, it's a no-brainer. So I got Houston coming out the South. Midwest, I have Creighton. In the West, I'd probably go Baylor, Big 12, show Big 12 some love. And for the East, I'll go Illinois.
All right. We will be back after the break to talk NFL.
How was school today?
It was good.
Did you play volleyball?
Yes.
How's your serve coming? I think we'll work on it this weekend.
Amy's slumber party is this weekend.
Is your homework done?
No.
That was the deal we made. If you do.
Hit your meetings because some microphones are better than others, and even though yours won't be muted, it's still getting in front of others. So please, everybody unmute it.
Yeah, I was watching. It was doing it by itself.
Yeah,
like it was just cutting. Yeah, it's not good. I'll keep an eye out for it.
And also, keep an eye on the count, because I'm telling everybody.
Hi, Lauren. My name is Katie. We're going to take care of you, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
I could talk about whatever. Yeah.
So let's talk NFL. Our big news coming out of the NFL right now: Rams defensive tackle Aaron Donald officially retired. What could you guys say about Aaron Donald's career, and where do you think he ranks among best defensive players in history?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I think he's a top 3 defender of all time. He's one of only 3 people to ever win 3 Defensive Player of the Years. I think you can make an argument for him being the best. Personally, I wouldn't put him there, but I'd probably put him at like number 2 or 3. Just the way he was able to dominate his era like he did. Didn't matter you put 2, 3 guys on him. Just some of the pictures you've seen floating around where entire offensive lines are focused on just him. He really helped turn that Rams defense that for most of his career was not very good, like talent-wise. They were always very competitive and one of the better defenses in the league solely because of him, the attention he brought. Because if you didn't put 2 or 3 guys, he could just take over games. He could have 2-3 sack games, pressure you every single play. It didn't matter. He was almost impossible to stop.
Yeah, one of the greatest defensive players of all time, no doubt. I would probably put him at 4th, but he is far and away the best interior
defensive lineman. It's very rare that you see a guy like that from the inside, undersized, with a lot of strength, who can just get to the quarterback over and over. The only people I would really put above him are Lawrence Taylor, Bruce Smith, and Deion Sanders, but those are different positions. For what he was, he's in a category by himself. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, I definitely do think that Aaron Donald is a top 5 greatest defensive player of all time. I think he was very dominant over his tenure in the NFL. He made Patrick Mahomes, gave him a lot of trouble a few times, and he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no argument about that. He was extremely dominant and made that Rams defense what it was, and they're gonna really miss him in the next few years.
Yeah, I feel like we're all in the same boat as far as where Aaron Donald has cemented himself in history in terms of legacy. I feel like he can still play ball. I feel like this was really just about wanting to do other things in life. I feel like he can still be, if not the best D tackle, one of the best defensive tackles in the league today. I mean, I have him top 2. I feel like that Super Bowl really helped his argument. I feel like his size at his position and his impact is unheard of. I feel like defensive tackles are bigger than him, and he still is more productive. I mean, cheers to a first ballot Hall of Fame career to Aaron Donald.
So as we know, free agency is still going on, and
let's just talk Bills real quick. 2 moves they made, signing Curtis Samuel to a multi-year deal, and also restructuring or re-signing Teron Johnson for multi-years. What do you think of these moves, and do you think the Bills have been concerningly quiet this offseason?
Yeah, I think Bean has had a very underrated offseason so far. The way he's been able to control the cap. We were in cap hell, and now we're not because of the moves Bean was able to do. He was able to get rid of players that didn't bring much value to the team anymore, bring back the players that did, like Epinesa and Naquan Jones, and then fill out the receiver room that lacked depth a lot last year and lock up some of the better players in the team. With the Dawkins expansion, now the Teron Johnson extension, they're cornerstones of this franchise, and he was able to lock them up at pretty good value. So I think Bean has done a great job this year.
Yeah, Bean with another fantastic offseason, massaging the cap.
But there's not much more that needs to be said. That was a great analysis of it.
Yeah, I agree. The Bills definitely needed to clean up that cap space, and that's exactly what happened. I think that most of what's going to happen is going to be through the draft. I think the Bills need to bolster their receiver room to have any competition in the NFL this year.
Yeah, I feel like the Bills did what was needed to be done. Like we've been saying these past few weeks, I feel like the cap situation that was going on here in Buffalo was top of the list for Bean. I think with names like Teron Johnson and Rasul Douglas in the secondary, I feel like that was the names, cornerstone names that you can build around. I feel like you got Curtis Samuel, who I don't necessarily think is an upgrade from Gabe Davis, but I feel like he can most definitely fill the shoes. I feel like they did a good job of leading themselves to the draft, and we'll see what's gonna happen next.
So that will conclude today's episode of Buffalo Sports Insider. I'm your host, Richard Miller, here with Isaiah Marquez, Alex Miley, Joe LaScala, and Shea Wirt. Make sure to keep up with us on social media. Make sure to find new articles on BuffaloSportsInsider.com. And that will be it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in.